What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's chapter 1052 came out. Unfortunately, it released last night while I was asleep, so I didn't get to react to it straight away, but I did read it, so I actually have read through it. But so we're just gonna go through. I'm gonna give my thoughts on the things as they are in the chapter. It's not really an action chapter or anything like that, but it's setting up stuff in the future. So we're just gonna hop right in. So first we have the cover story. It's Caesar Clown, who I thought had gone with Beiji. I was confused about this last night. I thought he had gone with Beiji when he left Whole Cake Island, but he's still in Whole Cake Island, and he's after coming across the Germa, who are probably going to take him, I'd imagine. So that's that, and then we skip forward, and the chapter opens in Marijua. So it opens with the Gorosei, and they're like, so Nika's finally come out, and the emperors have fallen, and it couldn't be a worse time for this, and the whole world's gonna find out the news, and then it's kind of they're on the phone to CP0, the one who Geppoed off of Onigashima. They're on the phone to him while he's on one of the world government ships that's just at Wano. And they're talking, and they're like, the elephant is gone. He's like, yeah, it just kind of left. What was that? And they're like, so that means the borders are staying closed. So the Gorsei know like a bit. I don't know. I think they know a bit too much about like what all this signifies to be like just in charge. They obviously have something else going on where they know all of this stuff. It kind of makes me suspicious, but yeah, they do acknowledge though. They say Wano is still almost impenetrable as long as the borders aren't open. So at this point in the chapter, it doesn't look like they're going to be invading. But then we have another thing coming up. So yeah, and the Gorsei acknowledge they're like, it seems they've modified the plan in light of like the events and what's happening, and they're saying a direct invasion is impossible, and but they still want Nico Robin brought to them, and CP0 is like, yeah, that's possible, and then their Den Den Mushi starts like going wild, CP0's, and someone's talking into it. They're like, CP0, CP0, come in. And I wonder who that could be. And one of the other CP agents, I don't know what CP he's from, he's like, someone's hijacking the signal. And the person is just like, listen up. And they're like, who is this? And they're like, stay where you are. I'm on my way. So I wonder who that could be. This would have been much cooler if it was my first time reading through it, because this reveal is pretty fucking huge. But yeah. So we get like a title card saying after 20 years of tyranny, the news of the Kazuki's victory is met with jubilation, and then cut to cut to X Drake and Basil Hawkins. This is the last scene before we skip away from the raid to a week in the future. Um, so they're talking, and Hawkins is like, "Oh, so you were with the Marines the entire time?" And Drake is just like, "You really expect me to answer that? Don't you have anything to say?" And Hawkins is just like, he just doesn't say anything. And Drake is like, "You look like hell. I thought those precious cars of yours promised you'd be safe if you stuck with Kaido." And Hawkins is like, "I submitted to him when he showed up because I thought if I didn't do it, he'd kill me." And but then he saw a Kid and his crew fight to the bitter end, and that they were prepared to die. This kind of gives me the vibe that Hawkins might try to join Kid's crew, because like he doesn't really have his own crew as far as we can tell. They've just been kind of done away with since he joined Kaido's pirates, the Beast Pirates. But like he could join Kid's crew. I know that would be three Supernova on one crew, but like if Yamato joins the Straw Hats, then like we have five people on the Straw Hats who are all stronger than the like Supernova for the most part, you know. So I really wouldn't be too mad at it. I do think if Kid's gonna be a Yonko, which we will be finding out next chapter, if Kid's gonna be a Yonko, then he could buff his crew with people like Hawkins and Apu. Um, I don't think he'd trust them. I don't think he trusted Apu in particular, but maybe Hawkins. Yeah, so anyway, Hawkins continuing on says, "Oh, even if I did foresee his victory, do you think I would go crawling back to him?" I think that's talking about Kid. Um, and then we get a flashback from the point of view of X-Drake, and he's like, "If you're going to switch sides, isn't now the time? What are your cards telling you?" And this is the 1% chance scene. Hawkins is like, I'm divining tomorrow's chance for survival, and only 1%. The big mystery of like, oh, who's the 1% man? Um, and Drake says, when you were 4 times in the future, the man you were talking about. And Hawkins says, yeah, it was me. So Hawkins was the 1% man. He was talking about himself. Everyone thought it was Luffy or Zorro or Kid, or like everyone thought it was one of them. But like, no, it's actually Hawkins. He was just talking about himself, which is an answer to the question. I don't mind it. I think it makes sense that it's his answer. I think it makes sense that he was the 1% man. Like, why would he be divining other people's odds, you know? So from there, we skip to a week after the raid is finished, and the celebrations are still going on, and we see in the school where the snake smile teacher was indoctrinating the students, and the teacher is like, oh, she isn't coming back, and everyone's like, why? And then the teacher's like, we have to restart your history lessons on our country's heroes from scratch, and all the kids are like, no. And the teacher's like, our first lesson will be the story of Kazuki Oden. And then we cut to just the streets. The streets heavy with this. So white, man. And people are like, I still can't believe that Komurasaki was Odin's daughter, and I heard Kawamatsu saved her from the castle when it was burning. And people are we see kids like celebrating by drinking. I think it's water. It would make sense narratively if it was water. Could also be ale though. And then they're kind of like, oh, and Kyoshiro was really Dendro in disguise. And then we cut to a place called Paradise Farm, and they're like, does anyone know anything about the person who took down Kaido? And someone says he's apparently a warrior known as Joy Boy. So I know Luffy is gonna be that's gonna happen a lot, but like the idea that people are gonna just start calling him Joy Boy is kind of insane to me because like I don't know how to feel about it. Like it's cool and all, but like it kind of makes it seem like he's almost not Luffy anymore, even though like that was a big worry with the whole reveal of it being the Hish no Me model Nika was that maybe he's literally just going to reincarnate as someone else, but like it's like Oda went out of his way to show that it's still Luffy, and then for him to just be known as Joy Boy to other people, I don't know. I don't like it personally, but we'll have to see how it goes. And people are like, I heard like he's no longer in the country, and I'd love to have seen him in person. His heroism rivals the legendary God of the Blade, which is Ryuma. Yeah, I was last night when I read that, I was like, isn't that Ryuma? Which fitting considering all the links to Ryuma over the course of the story. And then we cut to Ringo and the graveside, and it's Kawamatsu and Kinemon. And they're like, we're building another shrine, and Kinemon's like, yeah, from this hill they'll be overlooking the flower capital, just like the god of the blade, Ryuma. So that actually, the very next panel confirms that the god of the blade is Ryuma, just in case anyone was wondering. And so Kinemon says, we'll put Odin-sama to rest here, and he'll be surrounded by his allies, starting with Yasui and all the other daimyo who fought for this country, and ending with Ashura and Izo. So that's confirmation that Ashura Doji and Izo are both dead. We see Izo's guns laid out and Ashura's sword. So everyone giving out about how there have been no deaths. There have been deaths. What can I say? And then we see Onimaru, and Kamatsu says, think we'll be honored here too someday, or honored here someday too, Onimaru. It's good to see you alive and well. Yeah, actually, here's another thing. Onimaru, I don't know if it's actually been confirmed or if it was just like a thing on the internet, but he actually has a another Hita no Mi model fruit. That's how he was able to turn into a the version of him on the on the bridge, the big monk. That's actually a Hita no Mi. So uh, if that actually is confirmed, then I don't know why he isn't talking the way Chopper can still talk when he's in his reindeer form. Um, but yeah, and then Kinemon and Marco are there as well, and Kinemon says, "Oh, is it fine with you if we lay Izo to rest here?" And Marco says, "Of course, it's only right that his final resting place would be his home country." And yeah, and Marco says, "Seems like I've been left behind once again to say goodbye," which is like kind of upsetting, you know. Like, yeah, Marco's watching everyone around him die just repeatedly. And Karamatsu says, "We know the feeling." And Kinemon says, "We are the ones who remain. If something were to happen to any more of our heroes, I don't think I could take it." And then, yeah, they're like, "Let us pray for our health." And then we cut back to the flower capital, specifically the flower castle. And it's on the roof. And there's a grumbling stomach, and we see it's Yamato, and she's just like, "I'm so hungry." "No, I'm not. I'm not hungry. I'm not." And then down below in the castle, we hear Hiyori shouting, "Brother, you've got to hear this." And then Yamato also hears this, and she's like, "Hmm." And then you two, Yamato-kun, Luffy Taro-san, and Zoro-san, they finally open their eyes, and we see so it cuts away from Yamato as Hiyori says they finally open their eyes, and it cuts to her drop kicking Momonosuke. So just 2 feet drop kicking him in the face. And he's like, "Ah, will you ever stop being such a tomboy?" And he's kind of under his breath, like, "Not that it hurts," kind of like, trying to like act metal. And then we cut to Luffy and Zoro, and they're both kind of up shouting, and they're like, Luffy's like, "Meat," and Zoro's like, "Booze." And then we see a full panel, and it's like this big room. We have Momo and Hiyori and Yamato running in. Momo says, "Luffy, Zoro, you're finally awake." And we see like with them. So Zoro's drinking, Luffy is eating. We see Chopper running around Zoro. We see Sanji sitting there smiling. We see Nami and Otoko. We see Dr. Tristan and his reindeer mink assistant. I can't remember her name. We see Kiku in the corner. Everyone is there. Neko Mamushi and Brook are vibing out, and so loads are going on. Tama's there too, and they're all just kind of laughing and enjoying themselves. And so Momo, Hiyori, and Yamato are running in, and Momo's like, "Oh, Luffy, Zoro, you're finally awake." And then someone else is like, "Oh, more meat coming right up." And Luffy's like, "Man, this is great." And I think it's Zoro saying, "Give me seconds," and then he's also saying another. And then Yamato's like, "Oh, Luffy, you're up." And Momo's like, "Luffy, Zoro, save some room for later. I've been waiting for you two to wake so I can summon the whole country for a huge banquet. Let's do it today." And we see Luffy and Zoro. We get like side by side panels. Luffy's being hugged around the neck by Yamato, and Zoro is like he's got Chopper hanging over his head, and they're both just looking at Momo because they haven't seen him in his adult form. They're both like, "What?" And he's like, "Wait, don't you recognize me? I'm Momonosuke." And they're just like continuing on, and then they're both like, "What? You're really an adult now?" And Zoro, in typical Zoro fashion, is like, "You look pretty strong." And he's like, "Is it because you've got Odin's blood? Let me get a crack at you." And someone else is like, "Knock it off." I think that might be Momo saying "knock it off," but I'm not really sure. And then Momo is like on top of Nami. The way he's like when he was a kid, he used to like hug her and stuff and just like jump and be like, "Oh, they're at me." He does that, but obviously he's like 14 feet tall. Like he dwarfs Hiyori, and Hiyori is like 9 feet tall. And so anyway, he's like, "Oh, Nami, those two fiends are picking on me again. Please save me." And she's like, "Ah!" And then she just punches him across the room. And she's like, "Get off me!" And he's like, "But I'm still 8. And he's like, not that it hurts. And she's like, I guess that is true. But Luffy and Zoro are like, yep, he's definitely tougher. And then we get a cutaway to Sanji and Brook like, welcome to adulthood, Momo. No more special privileges for you. and uh, and then we have Yamato talking, and she's like, he's still a child on the inside, but on the outside, he's basically Odin now. She's putting a plate on his head, and he's like, quit putting plates on my head. And then Yamato's like, you should thank your parents for giving you such a strong body. I'm sure you'll be the number one samurai in the country someday. And he's like, I'll give it my all. Then we see Nami, and she's like, Nami? She's like, Yamato, let's take a bath together before the festival. Your vigil has ended, right? And Luffy's like, vigil? And Jinbei kind of explains to him in Wano they have a custom to give something up until their prayers are answered. And Yamato says, "I swore not to eat or bathe until the two of you recovered." So she hasn't eaten or like showered or anything for a week, which is pretty nasty. And Luffy's like, "Seriously, thanks Yama, bro. That must be why I'm feeling so great." And Jinbei's like, "What a good person." So obviously in the week, Yamato and the Straw Hats have come to grow quite close. Uh, like we saw last chapter when Yamato was like, "I'm gonna join your crew." They were all very like, "No, no," but like obviously at this point they all like her, they all get along. So I'd be very shocked if she doesn't join. So I think at this point it's just guaranteed that she's joining the Straw Hats. And yeah, and then Zoro's like, "I'm surprised we're not dirty ourselves." And then we see Hiyori is sitting next to Zoro. She's just like slightly behind him. And she's like, that's because I was in charge of wiping your bodies clean. Does that please you, Teehee? And they're like hearts at the end of like her sentences. And we see Sanji like on fire and he's like, Mosshead, you bastard, how could you? And then we see Zoro kind of have the flashback saying, after the dust settles, if I'm no longer myself, I want you to put me down. It's Sanji talking to him on the Den Mushi. And Zoro says, oh yeah, I must have returned from hell to fulfill my promise to kill you. And Sanji's like, I don't need your help with that anymore. And they're like fighting in the background while Yamato, Kiku, and Nami are just talking about bathing and stuff. And Yamato says this castle doesn't have mixed baths, so I'll pass Nami. And Tama says, well, I'd like to join if you're okay with that. So Kiku is going to the girls' bath, and Yamato is going to the guys' bath. And so yeah, they're in the baths. We see the men's bath, and it's it's Zoro, Chopper, Yamato, Luffy, Neko, Mamushi, Brook, Jinbei, Sanji, and Momonosuke. And yeah, they're like, oh, this temperature is just right. And Luffy's like, yeah, this is the best. When we're done, let's party. And we see Sanji in the background having a nosebleed because Yamato is topless. And he's like, is this a dream? And Momonosuke is just like, Yamato, you. Then we see the girls' bath, and Nami's like, the guys sure are allowed. We have Komachiyo, Shinobu. So Komachiyo is is Tama's lion. We see Komachiyo, Shinobu, Nami, Tama, Carrot, Speed, Hiyori, and Kiku, and Toko. Actually, as well, this one kind of messed me up. So, as I said, Hiyori is like 9 feet tall, right? I thought Kiku was like about 9 or 10 feet tall, but like her Hiyori and Kiku are sitting next to each other, and Hiyori looks tiny next to her. So how tall is Kiku? Like, yeah, how tall is Kiku? I thought Hiyori was very tall, but I don't know. But yeah, they're always so they're talking, and it's very apt that this chapter releases in Pride Month because we have Kiku saying, I always used to bathe with Odin Sama and the others before, but it would be very embarrassing to join men I'm not used to. And Hiyori says, you look just like you did back then, Okiku-chan. I think I'm older than you now. And uh, Toko is like, this is so nice. Ah, ha, ha, ha. And then we cut to outside, and it's like the banquet is being held today. It's time to really celebrate the return of the Kazuki clan. Get word out to every region. So yeah, as we knew was going to happen, there's a massive banquet happening for the entire country. But before we see that, we cut to Tokage Port in Udon, where the Sunny is, and a couple other ships, and we see Frankie and Usopp talking there. Like, finally, we got everything in shape. And Usopp's like, "Yep, they look ready to sail." Um, yeah, I'm trying to see what the ships are. So we have the Thousand Sunny, and then there's one in the middle that has like a dinosaur skull on it on the front of it, and then we have one on the other side, which I think is the Heart Pirates ship, but I don't. We haven't actually seen their ship before. The middle one, I'm guessing is the Kid Pirates because the Kid Pirates are in the scene. But I thought their ship was like metal. But this is not metal, obviously. But yeah, and then we cut, and it's Frankie and Usopp talking, and the General Frankie is after being remade, and it's Battle Frankie 38, so upgraded Battle Frankie, and he's like General Frankie is as good as new too. And then we see Beppo and Killer, and Beppo's like, "That's so cool," and they're both just like, "Oh my god, the robot!" And then we have a kid talking. He's like, "Don't get too buddy buddy with them. We can't let our guards down until we're safely back at sea." And they're like, I don't know how the information is going to leak, but you can be sure that the papers will catch wind of what's happened. And with the Emperor's gone, we're going to have the biggest targets on our backs. And everyone in the Kid Pirates are like, yeah, we actually get like a full spread of the Kid Pirates, or at least the most full spread we've gotten since Sabaody, at least. We see Kid Killer and like Wire and stuff, all the other ones that we don't know the name of. And then we see Law, and he's like, "That's right. Being in a closed off country doesn't necessarily mean they can't find out, but it does mean we have no way to monitor what their response will be." And then we see the Heart Pirates talking. They're like, "Oh, do you think the captain's bounty will be? They might raise it to an unthinkably large amount." And then we get an apapapapa, which is a poo's laugh. Apu and Inbi, the second number, pull up to Tokage Port, and the Kid Pirates are like Apu and a number, and Apu's like, "You're right, it leaked. How could this be possible?" And Kid's just like, "It was obviously you." And Apu's like, "Check it out. The bounties you're oh so curious about. Want to take a peek?" Because he has one of the newspapers, one of Morgan's newspapers, and this is the biggest blue balls in the entirety of Wano, I'm saying right now. So he throws the paper on the floor in front of Kid, and he's like, "It's all in there." And Kid's just looking down at it. And Apu's like, "Your updated bounties and the names of those who have been newly dubbed Emperors of the Sea." So, yeah, we officially know that two of them, if not all three of them, will officially be Emperors of Sea when they leave Wano. But before we get to see that, we cut away, and we cut away. There's someone with a they're like just flying in the sky, and they've got like a flower on their back. I wonder who this could be. And this is uh so we they're on Dendemushi, and it's like, "Tell me your exact position." I just said Sakazuki-san, I'm in the sky. So he's talking to Akayunu. I wonder who it could be. And Akainu's be like, "Be more specific." And he's like, I can see Wano up ahead." And then we see their back, and they're wearing a navy jacket, one of the ones that says "Justice" in kanji on the back. And Sakazuki just says, "You are not to do anything unnecessary. Understood, Ryokugyu?" And he says, I know already, goodness." So Green Bull is officially in play. Basically, confirmation that Green Bull has a plant zone, because it has to be a plant zone. Come on, what else is it going to be? Um, that would explain why he hasn't eaten in 3 years. Oh, this is the end of the chapter as well. No chapter next week, but I mean no break next week, but then we have a break for a month after. So things that are huge in this chapter. We'll officially find out the Emperors of the Sea and the bounties of everyone in the next chapter. Um, Green Bull is officially going to come into play. We'll finally find out what he looks like and stuff. Besides just the back of his head, which is all we see here. Um, and just party ready to happen. So that's it. Yeah, I thought it was a good chapter. Obviously, I think a lot of people don't like it because it's not like action or anything like that, and like everyone was expecting Kaido to get back up and stuff. But I do think it's a very good chapter. I think that the raid kind of needed to finish when it did. Like it had been going on for like 65 chapters at that point. Uh, and I'm excited to see what Green Bull has to offer. If you enjoyed the chapter as well, leave a comment down below what you thought of it and like what you're excited for coming forward, if you're excited for anything. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, consider dropping a like. Consider subscribing if you want more One Piece content, and I'll see you next time. Peace.